Welcome, fellow armchair generals. This is Gamer1745 with something a bit different. But before we get started on that, if you haven't already, please subscribe to the channel. And of course, you can hit that like button. Really do appreciate it. Now, this is going to be concerning Iran and sort of what's going on. Not so much of a history lesson, though that will be covered to some degree. It's to some elements with the moral relativism that we're seeing over the events of what's going on. This comes from a comment or comments that I made last week during the live stream about Iran's 40-plus year war with the United States and the West in general. And it is a war that they are waging against us. Is the U.S. at war with Iran? Well, not formally. We have not declared war against Iran, though generally speaking, it's sort of understood within diplomatic circles if you do not maintain some level of diplomatic relations, you are sort of in a de facto, not a de jure, de facto state of war. And the U.S., although it did talk extensively under the Obama administration, does not have formal diplomatic relations and acknowledgement of the Iranian government, the current Islamic Republic of Iran. And that is actually key. It's the Islamic Republic of Iran. That is not whose flag I have here. So, there were a few comments below, and I'm not upset at the posters who comment and disagree with me. I'm really appreciative of their comments, but I'm a little upset at the narrative of the comments because I've heard them, well, for 40 plus years, and they're just, I think, fundamentally wrong, because this comment goes back to, saying it's a 40-year war that's been going on. And it's, well, the U.S. did something bad in past, before. U.S. did something bad. One, I'm not conceding the U.S. did something bad. But what I'm sort of referring to is I always go back, and this isn't just like the Democrats. Often you hear this from the libertarians too, is go dredge up some incident way back when, and go, this is root cause. If the U.S. did not do this, these other things would never have happened. So it's all the U.S.'s fault. Hell no. Okay, I almost said even more demonetizing word. Hell no. And what he's referring to, the commenter, I'm going to keep names out of it just because, and you can go in and find it, and he's publicly posting it. So it's, it's not private, but I'm not attacking directly with these posters that they're posting, the commenters, because they're posting a lot of standard stuff you hear in schools, at least I heard in schools. He's referring to Mossadegh. Mossadegh was the prime minister of Iran for 2-3 years. This was back in the early 1950s. Now, he was the prime minister, just to give a little context in history, he was the prime minister of Iran under the Shah. He was pushing hard against the Shah's power, pushing their parliament to reduce the Shah's power. So there was an internal conflict going on. Now, the Shah appoints Mossadegh prime minister because a coalition in parliament supports him becoming prime minister. Now, he himself is not leading a majority party. He is leading a minority party, but is in a coalition with others. Basically, everybody who is against the Shah, kind of thing. Right, left, center, whatever. Everybody who's against the Shah is supporting Mossadegh just because he's, if you will, anti the Shah. Now, Mossadegh works and nationalizes the oil fields and the oil production in Iran, which is basically a British concession, British owned, and that upsets the British and really pokes the British to poke Eisenhower to get this thing done. Now, the big thing they wanted, they pointed out, is he was democratically elected. Part of the rant's coming on right now. I always hear this. Democratically elected, about two people. Allende and Mossadegh. They always bring up this democratically elected, and the U.S. got rid of them. The U.S. did something bad to these men. Okay. Allende was a leader in Chile. I don't know, I think president, but one of the leaders in Chile. And it's Pinochet and the regime that gets rid of Allende. They both are presented as some sort of Gandhi-like leaders, that if they had just been in power, that would have been good. Well, we don't know this. And we can look in Mossadegh's case. We can look at every single other one. You know, and Mossadegh was not democratically elected in a democratic national election, as I understand it. But every single case, you have the Assads in Syria, you have Saddam and the Ba'athists, he was just a minor player at the start of it, in Iraq. You have Gaddafi and his clique in Libya. You have Gabal Nasser and another minor player or somewhat minor at the beginning, Sadat, as part of the clique in Egypt. They all get rid of their monarchies that are there. Now, some of the monarchies, particularly the Farouk of, I think I'm getting that right, of Egypt, was a pathetic ruler, okay? I'm not defending the people that they got rid of, but they got rid of them. Well, all of them basically become dictators. Now, they may be popular dictators, but hell, they, eventually assassinate Sadat. They, get rid of Nasser. Still the Assads, well, they're on Assad number 2 right now, but Assad's around. So what makes anybody think that Mossadegh would have been any different? That he would have somehow been democratic? Name me one effing democracy in the Middle East other than Israel. Name me just one. Oh, well, they voted in Iraq under American occupation. As a government, I'm not talking about my personal opinions. This is not Gamer's personal opinions of government styles and what he thinks of different governments. But as a government and of the United States, looking at other governments around the world, I don't care how somebody gets into power. That is almost meaningless. So democratic, process. And you also hear this from the neocons, so the left and the neocons agree with it. Democratic. Well, the left doesn't really, because they don't care that Pol Pot, Mao, and Stalin weren't democratic, or maybe they think they were democratic because they have democratic in the name or something like that in some of the cases of the countries. But I don't care the process, whether it's a monarchy because you're the next second eldest son because the eldest son can't be the king but the second one can, or if it's the Roses chose you as to be the president of the country. I don't care the process. Don't effing care the process of installing the government. What is important is the policies of the government in power. They can be democratic or as, I don't know what, anti-democratic, what the guy who gets the least votes. Whatever that doesn't matter. It's who's in power and what are the policies of the country in power. So let's move this to a modern viewpoint. Let's say there's a democratically elected government that gets 80% votes. And they're popular in their country. And all that country does is spew into the ocean is poisonous garbage out of their factories, and they are putting on barges to randomly float out and sink out nuclear waste that's just going to nuke the oceans of the world because they're just dumping toxic waste out into the ocean. Well, we can't do anything against them because they're democratically elected and democratically popular. The people love the polluters. How long until the global warmists and others are going to think, we've got to invade that country because they're polluting the planet? No, but we can't because it's democratic. They only use democratic against the U.S. at their convenience. So that because Mossadegh was a populist, and so was Hitler, and so was Mussolini, populist. Mussolini and Hitler both won elections. Now, Hitler was appointed by the, President Hindenburg, and Mussolini was appointed by the king. Yeah, but they also had later elections in which they overwhelmingly won at times. Now, they're not necessarily free and fair and everybody gets to vote, or every party gets to run. A bunch of the later elections in Germany, communists and socialists didn't get to run. So, no, I'm not saying they're free and fair, but their elections, they were democratically supported. So, no, the process, do not mention or support why, or the U.S. did something bad when they get rid of a democratically elected person in some other country. It's policies. Okay, so the U.S. definitely helped engineer Mossadegh's downfall as prime minister. He's imprisoned. He ends up spending the rest of his life under house arrest. Okay. As that is the original sin for America, and this is sort of my point number 2, Iran. As if Iran, we did something bad to Iran, and now that's bad. Well, that's sort of like the DDR, the Deutsches Demokratische Republik, East Germany, going, hey, U.S., you bombed Germany. You did something bad to Germany. The U.S. is going, so what do you care about it? Well, you did bad to Germans, so we can do bad to you now. No, those were the Nazis we're bombing. You're a different government. You're not the same government. We went after Mossadegh's. We didn't go after Iran. We didn't do something bad to Iran. We went after Mossadegh's government under the Shah's head of state, and I'm sort of government. That government, whether it's Mossadegh's government or the Shah's continuous head, we didn't install the Shah. The Shah was already there. We sort of, we or the British kicked out his father and put his son on the throne. That's another whole story, but the Shah's in power. Okay, that government goes away. So whatever the U.S., and the U.S. in this case, did not bomb Iran, did not attack Iran, did not invade Iran, did not occupy Iran, sent 0 troops to Iran. We just helped engineer the downfall of a particular government. Yes, it was a CIA operation. Yes, it was approved by President Eisenhower. It wasn't some rogue group. It was U.S. policy. So that is very much the case there. But there is a new government comes in under the Ayatollah Khomeini. Now there's Khamenei. It's too bloody similar for me to clearly pronounce the differences. But there's a new theocratic government in Iran. That government started a war with us when it took over our U.S. embassy. Now you can argue that, oh, well, it was a bunch of students that took it over. That's a lot of BS, but even if you want to argue that, they didn't then immediately send in the military or the police and clear the students out. They could have. They easily could have. The students would have gone. We all know that. It's a fiction that it isn't. And if the Islamic Republic of Iran wanted to... New picture, yay. Oh, let's go full screen. Oh, come on, yay. The Islamic Republic of Iran, if they wanted to break off diplomatic relations, they could have. No problem. Just send all of the ambassadorial staff, the embassy staff, whatever you want to call them, home. Just send them home. But no, they didn't. They kept them as hostages. Partially because they wanted to use them as leverage so that we would send back the Shah so that they could have the Shah and his family in custody, presumably to kill. And so we did not do that. We tried to rescue them. It all failed. They realized that they were going to get a tough guy president, Reagan, so they eventually let the diplomatic stuff go. So this is a new start. This is a start of this war. It isn't U.S. did something bad to Russia once, way back when, 200 years ago or something. No, this isn't just like because this is sort of brought up that, because we struck at Soleimani. Well, we can talk about media. And if you go, well, tit for tat, back and back and back. No, this round of events starts with taking over sovereign U.S. territory. And it's sovereign until the Iranian government says it is no longer, but they are supposed to then go, oh, that's no longer U.S. territory. We want it back. Fine. People go. You got less than a day to burn all your sensitive documents. Then you got to go. And that is legit. If you want to throw out a diplomatic staff, you want to cut off diplomatic relations, that is a legit thing. Now, okay. So Iran isn't one viewpoint, isn't one, the people of Iran hate us. No, all kinds of viewpoints in Iran. Okay, my point number 3 here, the Shah. And I'm sort of taking this, I have notes here for those of you watching later don't know. Taking from some of the comments. The Shah was an illegitimate ruler. And yeah, okay, that's the person's opinion. You can just go, yeah, opinion. But what makes a legitimate ruler? That's actually a sort of a tough question to answer. But he was he was a lapdog or American puppet or whatever. So what? It doesn't matter. The Shah was the generally recognized diplomatically, internationally, as the ruler of Iran. So you can call him whatever you want, legitimate or illegitimate, but monarchies are just as legitimate as democracies. It all depends on your cultural viewpoints, on what you expect the government to be. And I will get to you in a moment, Ari. So the Shah was just about as legitimate as anybody else. Now, I suspect the person commenting, or persons actually, but the main person commenting was an American. But I know that a lot of people out there aren't. That viewpoint that watch the channel, and their viewpoints can be different. And I'll get to some of that in a moment. But if you are looking at, sort of what's going on. Okay. Another point that was brought up was you should read more about, the Shah assassinated people, ruled by terror, blah, blah, blah. You should read more. And I made some comments, and then, well, why are you making these comments? And sometimes on the posting, you don't quite know which, if you especially coming in late, which one I'm referring to. I go, no, I don't need to read more about, the state terror in Iran. I knew one of the Savak, fairly high up people that did the state terror in Iran. I know about it. Yeah, they were brutal. I wouldn't want to live under that damn government. God, no. They were effing brutal. And trust me, I know. I met one of the guys who did it. I mean, really did it. So no, you don't need to read more. And then my sort of giving some comments about some of my experience. And to you, and I think this person is young enough, that this is all history to him. Well, this is my life to me. Not 1953 most of the day, that's before I was born. But the overthrow of the Shah and the subsequent events is, I've been watching it from afar, fortunately, been not in Iran, not watching it, as a next door neighbor to Iran, but from afar, I've been watching it throughout all this time period. So, no, not that I can't learn more from a book on it, but I don't need to read more. I know what's going on. I know who these people are. I know the state of these governments and what they're doing. So, yeah, read more on this thing. This is just sort of what's going on in my life. Okay. Another commenter very much was a different guy, but on the same thread. The U.S. shouldn't be there. Well, that's another whole question. Whether the U.S. should be interfering in other countries. And should it interfere in the Middle East, generally speaking? Well, there was a lot of people, including, God, I always blank on these things. Especially when I'm ad-libbing a bit more. Transatlantic pilot. The guy who flies across the Atlantic for first time. Help me, chat. Help me. Who fly? I'm mostly picturing Jimmy Stewart playing him in my head. He flies the Spirit of St. Louis. I just block on these things. No one's helping me in chat. Boy, I need a better chat. Sorry, guys. Lindbergh. You haven't actually said a complete sentence, though. Lindbergh was totally against going into World War II. We should stay out of foreign wars. Don't go into World War II. Stay out. Well, yeah, you can have that viewpoint. But, my God, if you do that, you're only going to be... said a complete sentence. Well, in this whole thing, maybe not. Sorry if I'm rambling, not finishing thoughts. If you can have the idea that you're only going to defend your walls of your borders of your country, and you're not going to, yeah, now you get there. Charles Lindbergh, yes, now you guys are getting there. But I believe threats can be identified and dealt with, and yes, can have unforeseen consequences later on. before they become a problem on your doorstep. So I think it's mostly time for most of our troops to come out of the Middle East right now, but that doesn't mean that we shouldn't care about what's going on in the Middle East. And this poster said, well, Iran's foreign policy is really mostly just defense. Okay. No, it isn't. What is Iran? I think most of the left would be shocked and horrified and think we should invade tomorrow if they knew that Iran is just the sort of Persian way of saying Aryan, and they changed it to because they wanted to say to Hitler and the rest of Europeans, we're Aryans too. So we're also white supremacists too. We're really just whites as well. We're Aryans. We're not really these Persians. We're these Aryans. The Iranian, the Persian, whatever you want to call them, is the majority peoples in Iran, but it is an empire. The country as we know it now is an empire. They are occupying other ethnic groups. They are the Iranian Empire, the Persian Empire. They would like to be bigger. And so their foreign policy is not primarily of defense. Now, Soleimani was in charge of the Quds Force. The Quds Force. This is their sort of elite special action force. What would, if we were to say that in English, what would that be? Quds Force. Force, well, obviously we got that part. Quds. The English word for that would be Jerusalem. He is in charge of the Jerusalem force because the ultimate goal of his force and the Iranian regime, as stated by the Iranian regime, not me saying, I'm not describing what I think their goals are or what the U.S. government thinks their goals are. It's what they say their goals are, along with death to America, of course. Oh, that just means the government. No, they say death to America. They don't care about our government. They care about our culture. It's the Jerusalem force because they want to take over Jerusalem and make sure it's under Islamic territory. And because the Ayatollah Khomeini, the original one, hated nationalism. He was an international religiousist, wanting to conquer the Islamic world at least. And of course, eventually the whole planet would be the Islamic world under his idea. But he was an Islamicist, a Shiitist that wants Shiite control over the holy places of Islam. I'm getting both a helicopter going over and a very loud truck both happening at the exact same time. I hope this is all good for you audio-wise. Oh, it's a motorcycle, I can tell now. Okay. So this Quds force, this Jerusalem force, this clearly shows their primary foreign policy is not defense. It is anti-Sunni. Not that I'm a big fan of the Sunnis. It just is anti-Sunni and going. And the original poster said, if the U.S. just gave up its insane, his words, Israel first policy, we could have a maintain a stabilized Middle East. When the hell in human history has that piece of territory, that region, ever been stable? And I'm talking about when the Seleucid and the Ptolemaic empires were sort of joint there, just after Alexander the Great. It wasn't stable then. It wasn't stable later under Rome. You ever heard of the Jewish revolt and the Romans' fights with the Parthians? That part of territory, what? You want to maintain the Sykes-Picot agreement between the British and the French? Really? A thing that's hated in the Middle East? The Sykes-Picot agreement? You want to maintain that? That's your goal? That establishes Syria and Iraq and these things, these countries. You want to fight and maintain that? Support that? the idea that we supporting Israel or something is somehow destabilizing the Middle East. The Middle East has never been stable. It wasn't stable when the Ottomans were ruling there. Faisal and his revolt that was going on even before World War I started, that T.E. Lawrence, later known as Lawrence of Arabia, comes in and supports and stokes up. You know, it wasn't stable. So there is no... The U.S. is following the wrong foreign policy. Supporting Israel is destabilizing the rise of the Middle East. That is just Arabic or Islamicist propaganda that has gotten into these people that are supporting it. Now, why is that propaganda so important? And this is my last main point here. And this point here, if it hasn't already, may get a lot of people to unsubscribe from the channel. But if you do, please tell me that you did because of this and sort of why. But this goes to moral equivalency. Let's see, I want to bring up... Oh, we can move. I want to bring this down here. Okay, this is a tweet by Juliana McFarlane here. Another big truck going by. Breaking honesty from Iran. I'll bet after 3 days of denials should note that Iran is more forthcoming and frank in its apology than the U.S. ever was over Iranian Flight 665, incidentally shot down by U.S. warships in 1998. If that's, I don't know if that's the right date, but we'll see here in a moment. As for Russia Flight, I think that's the one they shot down over the Ukraine, which I think they're still denying. As this, whoever this Juliana McFarlane is, ABC Foreign Affairs reporter, London Leadership Council, we're seeing right over here. No, I don't follow her, but somebody retweeted this thing. No wonder it's coming from a Brit who is definitely anti-Semitic. A lot of British policies are anti-Semitic. So, that there's somehow a moral equivalency. We'll get to this flight thing in a moment. We'll move this back up here. But I guess there is a worldview that you can go the moral equivalency between Iran and the United States. And yeah, you know, I could even see that you could go that Iran is more moral than the United States under some viewpoints. But you first have to go, Islam is the one true religion, and killing as many people as necessary to enlighten the rest of the world into God's true plan is the moral thing to do. If you think killing people in the name of religion is morally equivalent to the U.S. actions, U.S. government, general policies, then you fucking lost me, okay? You can stay subscribed to the channel because I want to talk to everybody. I'd love for the Ayatollahs to listen to my stuff, but fuck you. If you think there's moral equivalency between the Iranian Islamic Republic and the United States government, sure, the U.S. government just F's up at times, and we'll get back to this air thing in a moment. Certainly it does. But effing up once in a while and being morally equivalent to the Islamic Revolutionary Government of Iran? Oh, God, no. You know, we're not going to talk about my personal views, but whether you for or against gay marriage or gay rights or gay whatever, or trans rights or trans whatever, fine. But in Iran, they kill you for that. They kill you. Their government policy is to kill gay people. There are no gay people in Iran because once they find them, they kill them. So they don't have a gay population. And so you're going moral equivalency? What the hell? You can be like, oh, well, we don't, I'm not saying I'm for it. This is, again, not my policy. But if somebody's like, well, I'm not for gay marriage. Oh, you're so terrible in America or Europe or whatever. Okay, well, that's your belief. Somebody is against gay marriage or something. Fine. Now, I will never, could I be friends with somebody who's against gay marriage? Sure, I could be friends with somebody who's against gay marriage, but I'm not going to be a friend with somebody who believes in killing gay people just because they're gay. Okay, that is a step too far. I can't be friends with you if you have that viewpoint. That's why I can't be friends with this Iranian revolutionary government. I can't be friends with you. Now, there's the people in the world out there that believe that the Islamic Revolutionary Government of Iran, or the Islamic Revolutionary Republic, or Islamic Republic of Iran, is morally equivalent or morally superior to the American or the Western governments. Okay, I can't, yes, you can exist in this world, but I'm going to personally shun you. If I knew somebody that I was friends with goes, no, I really think the Shiites should, do just what Iran, I'm no longer your friend. Okay, now you can watch my channel. You can do it. Now there's another group of people that are supporting this, and it's probably this Juliana McFarlane is one of them. Is there postmodernist deconstructionists that just want to tear down the West, tear down the patriarchy, tear down whatever it is they want to tear down, and they're looking for anybody who opposes the West as it now is, and whether this is the U.S., Britain, West Germany, whatever the West may be, Australia, whatever you want to call the West. And it can be France, Italy, the West. Not a geographical location. That's why I threw in Australia and whatnot. It's a way of thinking, governmental thing. So if you're primarily so anybody who's against an element of it, you're going to support just because it helps tears it down. That is an evil viewpoint as well, because you're destroying what is here, and you're going to. Now we'll get back, so we'll get to this equivalency thing here, and I have pre-set up here this Iran Air Flight 655. I remember when it happened, most assuredly. Now I want to just, because I went in and looked at this, this is Wikipedia, of course, so it's not 100% accurate. Here we go. And this is, okay, sort of blaming America for the shooting down. It is not just her tweet, but there's other people out there blaming America, that it's Trump's fault for having the airplane shot down, now that they've admitted it. But sort of comparing it to the Vincennes incident here. On the morning of July 3rd, 1988, USS Vincennes was passing through the Straits of Hormuz, returning from escort duty. They had to escort because at this time, Iran was at war with Iraq, and Iran was laying mines, sea mines, in the Straits of Hormuz and doing other things to try to cut off oil. Now, their main direct attacks were ships coming in and out of Iraq, but they were also getting other shipping as well, coming from other states. So this was, again, this was ongoing, not just for a few months. This was ongoing for years. That the U.S., and for all of you isolationists out there, it is perfectly acceptable and right and correct for the U.S. Navy to maintain sea lane openness around the world. We might be very appropriate for us not to put troops ashore in Iran and Iraq and all those other things, but it's very appropriate for the U.S. ships to be out here operating. So I will disagree heartily if you want to keep our ships out of there. I might agree that we should pull our troops out. That's a different question. Okay. A helicopter deployed from the cruiser reportedly received small arms fire from an Iranian patrol vessel as it observed from high altitude. So the Iranians shot at a helicopter. The Vincennes moved in to engage the Iranian vessels, in which course they violated Omani, up here, the Oman, which does control the sort of the tip up there, waters, and left after being challenged and ordered to leave by the Royal Oman warship. So the U.S. leaves Oman's territory just because they were asked. The Vincennes then pursues the Iranian gunboats, entering Iranian territorial waters to open fire. Yeah, okay, but they had already fired at us, and there were many, many previous incidents prior to this. This isn't just something new, and this isn't the U.S. attacking Iran. This is the U.S. keeping the straits open. 2 other U.S. Navy ships and nearby. Thus, the Vincennes was in Iranian territorial waters at the time of the incidents, as admitted by the U.S. government in legal briefs. Yeah, but we were there in hot pursuit. There is a international convention about hot pursuit going through territories, including into other countries' territories. You know, a third party, meaning somebody like Oman's territories. Did not cover up. Okay. Contrary to accounts, various combat systems recorded. Okay. The flight. Okay, so they were in our Iranian territory. Flight 655 was first detected by the Vincennes immediately after takeoff. It received a short IFF Mode 2, possibly leading the crew, the Vincennes, to believe the airliner was an Iranian Tomcat capable of carrying unguided bombs, driving into attack profile. Since the USS Stark incident, all aircraft in the area had to monitor 1200 megahertz international air defense frequency radio. A total of 12 or 10 attempts were made to warn the airliner, and 7 on the military air defense frequency and 3 on the AID frequency. No replies. After receiving no replies to multiple radio challenges, the Vincennes fired. Okay. This is all the U.S. was trying to do. You can see the minute-by-minute tick-tock here. What they were trying to do. Now, they don't get through because the Iranians were listening on different channels. They were chatting with different, airport stuff. So they didn't hear the Navy. The Navy was, we can see that they tried to do it. They thought, and we can see they were going from here to here, and they were sort of coming up, and it looked like they were maybe coming in for an attack. So they felt they had to shoot. So I don't see the moral equivalency to having a ship that has had its helicopter fired upon, fighting with gunboats, is now having an aircraft coming in at it, and it just sees a blip on a screen. You can see these old style screens. They don't see the actual aircraft. They just see a blip. They don't know what it is, and it doesn't respond, and it sees an IFF of possibly a Tomcat. Yeah, that is not the same as Iran just shooting down an aircraft, because it launches missiles and is afraid that because it launches missiles, there may be whether it's a drone strike or manned aircraft strike, counterstrike. Man, they decided to launch the missiles. Okay, I'm going to answer some of the questions and talk some of the stuff, but these are my main points. The postmodernists want to tear down our society and will use any enemy of our enemy kind of thing, which they're not. Iran is not the friend of the postmodernists, but they will use it to try to tear it down, and that's what a lot of these people are. So this is Gamer's Rant on this. Now I want to see, so please again follow, like, comment, and I will at least give brief comments. Let's see. Arno, do you think it is a coincidence the civilian plane was shot down at about the same time as missile strike? Well, they actually sort of commented a little bit about some of this. The Iranians have accepted responsibility for it, and basically the operators think or say that they thought it was an incoming aircraft. So it's definitely not a coincidence. I think we should something starting with a C, ending with a. No, I don't quite get. Iran is harmful for the U.S. and NATO for good over a decade or more. 40 years, Ari. 40 years. Yes, the Weimar had lots of constitutional flaws. Okay, give the word anytime. I know a guy who can handle a crusade. Yeah, Pope innocent. Well, see, the current Trump doctrine is he is not for regime change in Iran. He is not trying to bring down the Iranian regime. Not that he would be happy if it's, not that he would be unhappy if it's overthrown, but he is not militarily, at least, trying to bring down the regime. Okay, Well, actually, Aryans are different in India. They around the area truly means the same as Hitler's Aryan. Well, actually, Aryan, no. When Iran changes its name, they stated it was the same Aryans that Hitler was saying Aryans. That's what they state. That's what they say. I'm not putting words in their mouth. They're saying it. I think some kind of cultural group is wrong about that. A stable Middle East is an oxymoron. Personally, I think a stable Middle East is possible, but it's kind of got the treaties of World War I. Yeah, you're back at Sykes-Picot about the treaties of World War I. I've yet to see a period in human history of a stable Middle East. So, yeah, that's like saying, hey, communism works. Every time we tried it. Well, no, it hasn't worked, but we'll try it again and see if it works this next time. It hasn't worked yet. So there hasn't been a stable Middle East yet. And since recorded history, at least outside of the Chinese, Far East recorded history, starts in the Middle East, and we've yet to see a stable period there, I kind of think no. But I could be wrong. If the British did what they promised to the rebels in the untelling, they could have happened, but I think it would be possible. Well, the British promised during World War I too many things to too many people, and so that didn't work out for them. Okay, now that I've answered the questions, we're going to end this special, and for viewers later, I'd like to have your comments on it, questions. I know this is a bit rambling, but I guess it's my style. Thanks for watching again. See you later for more gaming videos.